forgot my numbers already. I think it's the 4th episode of the Lovebird Lane podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I am your host, Julianne, and you will notice that I'm not looking too fresh today. Today is meant to be 45 degrees Celsius. It's hot. It has been hot for days. We have had near 40-degree temperatures again this week, and yes, it is making it quite unbearable. We are. I'm very much fearing getting my electricity bill for this quarter, because we have pretty much had the air conditioner going, not whole days. We are trying to turn it off in the morning. I do have it on now because I am already sweating. Hence, I've not put on hardly any makeup, because I figured no makeup is probably better than makeup that has completely melted off my face. I've put on a little bit of mascara and a little bit of lipstick for y'all, but that's as far as I went today. Today is going to be a little bit of a different episode. We are a little bit closer today because I'm thinking that I'm going to do more of a vlog, a bit of a chat, rather than a knitting podcast. Yes, so the only two things that I have been working on are my no frills sweater, and I did a little bit of weaving yesterday. But of course that looks exactly the same. It's my fairy hair scarf that you have seen before on the podcast, and I'm just trying to get that off the loom. So yesterday I spent quite a bit of time weaving on that. I am getting close to finish, so that means I can start some new projects, make some more fabric for project bags for the Lovebird Lane shop. I posted on Instagram yesterday the bags that I have made so far, and they got a huge, fantastic reception. So thank you very much. And yeah, so I'd like to get some more made. I'm hoping to be able to figure out how to have some more kind of proper, you know, like project bag size pieces of fabric made. So yeah, I'd like to get onto that, which means that I need to get that fairy hair scarf off the loom so I can rewarp and do some more different weaving for bags. And I'm already hot and I'm already dry. Now I can show you my no frills. I'm just on Body Island, as Vine would say, and I am just knitting round and round and round in circles. So I don't think I had separated the sleeves last week, but that is now done, and I think I'm approximately 10 inches down from the sleeve hole. And I've just thought, I know I need to knit 49 centimeters, which is 19 odd inches, because I usually work in inches, but now that I think about it, I don't know whether that's down from the armhole or down from the back of the collar, so I need to check that. But yeah, I think I'm about 10 inches down, so I'm literally just going round and round and round. I'm still using the helical method, of course, for changing my skeins, and I am getting close to needing to wind some more yarn, because these are getting a little bit sad looking. So, like I said, it's just round and round, Body Island, trying to get that finished. So that's really the entirety of the knitting that I've done this week, is literally just my no frills sweater. I've got some show notes here on my computer so that I can talk about some things that I have discovered recently that I thought that some of you might be interested in. So that's what I mean by it's going to be a little bit of an unconventional podcast. If you're new to the channel, this is not a regular podcast. Today is just going to be a bit of a chat, a bit of a sharing about some things that I think that some of you might be interested in. So if that's not of any interest to you, that's fine. We will see you next week. Hopefully I'll have a little bit more crafting to show you. But if you are interested, continue watching. I've got some shows here that I've discovered. I've got a podcast and some YouTube channels. So very much things that can be listened to or watched while you are crafting. So the first thing is I have started watching the new Netflix series of Queer Eye. I was of the age that I think I was in my teenage years, or late teenage years, early 20s or whatever, when the original Queer Eye was out, and that was called Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, and it was makeovers of straight men. But it's kind of, I didn't really want to watch the new one because I was like, oh, I love the old one, you know, I don't want to, you know, mess up my memories of the old one. And so I put it on one day. I just wanted to watch something light while I was working on some projects. I think it was a Saturday, so Simon was out sailing, and I popped it on and I watched an episode and I fell in love with it immediately. I really liked the guys. The guys were really, really nice. But I have really loved the way in the old series it was more about teaching the man how to be better. I suppose, you know, better. The thing that I'm loving about the new series is that the guys themselves, the Fab Five themselves, are in certain episodes and certain situations being challenged, and they are learning as well. And I really find that refreshing, that they're not the experts in everything. They are learning and they are sharing these experiences. And one of the most, if you watch no others, one of the most powerful episodes that I watched, which had me in tears within the first minute, was an episode about a trans man and the struggles that he has gone through, and having his top surgery to remove his breasts and getting his sex changed on his license and things like that. And I was crying through that whole episode. It was just so powerful. And the wonderful thing in that episode too is one of the guys, one of the Fab Five, has never really had a lot of, I think he says that he never really spent a lot of time in the scene, which I assume he means the LGBTQI scene. So he didn't quite understand transsexuals and how, you know, how they feel, what their experience is like, things like that. So he sat down with this man and asked him, and they had a chat, and by the end of it he'd learned and he understood better. And that to me was just fantastic. It was like, okay, you know, you're supposed to be the expert, but he's the fashion expert. And he's saying, okay, well, I don't know about these things. I don't know about your experience. Tell me, please. I'd like to learn. And that's the thing that I'm loving about the new series, because they, not only do they impart their knowledge on the person that they're working with, they are learning as well, and they are growing. And I just love that sort of, what do you call it? Like the transfer of knowledge and information. And it's really refreshing, and I've really loved it. So I would highly recommend it, by the way, if you are interested in that. If you've been a little bit on the fence like I was, definitely give it a try, because I've just fallen in love with it. And through watching that, I have found a podcast which is like, it's just been so great to listen to. One of the guys in the Fab Five, Jonathan Van Ness, he is the hair and skincare kind of guy. He gives the haircuts and the shaves and things like that. Yeah, he has a podcast called Getting Curious, and I downloaded every single episode available because he was my favourite out of the five. He has such a joyful, innocent kind of personality to him, and he's just infectious. Like, you just fall in love with him because he just has this joy for life. And even though he's probably been through some really hard times with being a gay man, he maintains this wonderful joy of life and this innocence about him that I just love. So I looked up his podcast, and yes, it's called Getting Curious with Jonathan Van Ness, and there was a couple of episodes that really stuck with me, and one of them that I've been thinking about ever since, episode 87, and it was called What's Really Going On with Recycling, Hunny. His guest was Beth Porter. So basically, the Getting Curious podcast is, he has all of these questions, and to learn more, he has experts in whatever the question is that he is asking come onto the podcast and explain it to him and talk to him about it. And yeah, so Beth Porter came on, and she is an expert in recycling. I can't remember what her actual title was. It's in the podcast, so definitely give it a listen. But something that really, really stuck with me is, I don't know whether it's necessarily transferable information to Australia versus America, where they are. something that I've actually made a change and I'm actually doing things different already is recycling. And she explained how things that come from your, curbside collection and things like that all get sent to a processing plant, which is mostly, I think it's mostly automated, and how she was saying that there's lots of issues with recycling and contamination. And I was sort of thinking, well, what do you mean contamination? And they talked about it. And she was basically saying, like, the cost of recycled paper or the pulp or the recycling itself going to, like, these recycling manufacturers, if there is contamination in that paper, so say there's been water contamination, there's rust contamination, there's food contamination, oil, things like that get into that paper, that reduces the... because it kind of increases the processing that needs to be done to the paper, and thus brings down its value. And I had never thought of that. Like, I have been a recycler for a really long time, and I rinse everything, I make sure it's mostly clean, and then I just dump it in my recycle bin and I put it in my curbside bin. And I have noticed from time to time that there is still moisture in the things that I have washed that I'm putting in the bin. And she was saying that that is a major source of contamination. And I suddenly thought, oh my God, I'm doing that. I am affecting all of this recycling. And I know I am only one person, and but I figure I would share the information with all of you, so maybe you guys can think about it as well. Basically, she was saying to prevent contamination is to wash and dry all of your recycling. So everything that you put in your recycling bin should be dry and clean. But she was saying that yes, having the contamination does affect the purchase price of the raw materials by the manufacturers. So yeah, I've been making an effort ever since I listened to that podcast, and I think it was Sunday I put it on. Simon and I were both here together and we were listening to it. And I have been washing my recycling and then leaving it on my sink or on my kitchen bench to dry, just to air dry. I'm not going to the effort of using my tea towels to dry any of my recycling, but yeah, I am making that effort to have my recycling dry. So yeah, I thought that was a tip that you folks might enjoy. Definitely listen to the episode. She does have a book called, Reduce, Reuse and Reimagine. I did look into buying it, but it is extremely expensive. I'm assuming it was probably a small print run or something like that, but the Kindle edition alone is $35, so that's really kind of out of my price range. I would love to read the book. I might have to have a look and see if my local library has a copy. I have to renew my library card though because it's expired, so I'll have to do that first. But yeah, and I did look for a physical copy, and I think a shop in Australia was selling it for $94. So I was like, yeah, if I can't afford $35 on Kindle, I can't afford a $94 book. So yeah, I'm really interested to read her book, but I think I'll have to try and source it from the library and see if I can get it, free. I will definitely recommend, if you are a podcast listener, definitely go and have a listen to Getting Curious with Jonathan. I'm sure that his personality is perhaps not everybody's cup of tea, but I personally really enjoy it, and I enjoy his show very much, and it's very, very smart and very, very informative. So there's lots of different topics. There's ones on menstrual cups and skincare and what's the best way to look after your skin. There is the very, very first episode was about the difference between types of Muslims and why they don't get along, and it's wonderful, like all of these different topics that he's getting these really expert people in to talk to him about. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So if you're interested, and it's like many and varied topics, they are just all over the place. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more about things in your world, definitely give this podcast a listen. And the next thing that I've been loving lately is I've discovered a couple of new YouTube channels, and they are on a topic that I have been flirting with for a very long time. It is something that I really, really want to achieve, and it is difficult because my husband isn't interested in it. So, sounds very cryptic. I, at heart, I believe, am a minimalist. And I, with my mental health that I've spoken about many times on this podcast, I have anxiety, I have depression. It is quite debilitating most of the time. Like I said, I do have an element of agoraphobia as well. Most days I have some sort of symptom of one of those things. I am on medication. I am very open about saying that I have mental health issues, and I am on medication because I really want to stop the stigma around mental health. And I mean, the thing is the bulk of us have some form of mental health issue that we are dealing with, and I really don't want it to be something that you're ashamed of or something that you feel like you need to hide. So I try to live by example and let people know that it's okay. It's okay to be who you are, and you are seen and you are loved, and that's all that matters. You are who you are, and if you do suffer from mental health issues, you're not alone. And that is something that I'm very, very passionate about. And as part of that, one of the things that really bothers me with my symptoms is having clutter and mess around. And I live with a man who is a very mild hoarder. And I also, although I'm a minimalist, I have not minimalized my own possessions. And I think it's because I figure, what's the point? Why should I bother when my husband is just going to keep bringing things into the home and cluttering things up? And but anyway, I've gotten to the point where, to me, the thing is I don't clean my house as often as I would like because I have to sidestep things everywhere. Our house is very small. I've said this before. I think it's only 84 square meters. It's very, very small. I have the coffee table right in front of me, not even a foot away from me. I have my couch. We have Simon's couch. There is an armchair over the other side. We literally, all of the walkways in this house are less than half a meter wide. Between the corner of the armchair and the corner of the sofa, there is less than half a meter. I have a box over here with some projects and some pillows and blankets in it. Then we have our TV unit. I have a massive bed for Granger, which he has never used. Well, he has used it, but he seems to not like it. On the other side of the coffee table, we have Simon's computer tower because he tends to use our TV as his computer monitor, because the back room that is his study gets far too hot because it's like a sleep out. This is an old Adelaide Housing Trust home, which is now a private rental that has a sleep out at the back, which is not desperately well insulated. All that kind of thing. We have a table over in the corner. There is just stuff everywhere. And behind Simon's sofa, there's a china cabinet. There is, and my craft room, I can't go in there because that's where Granger's other bed is. I have to move it every time I want to use my craft table. And it's just like, I just, with my anxiety and my depression, it is just triggered over and over and over and over again with all of this stuff that is in my house. And I'm getting kind of to my wit's end, especially because, like I mentioned before, we will be moving this year. We're moving in with a friend so that he can help us save up for our own home. And I really despair as to how we are going to get all of our stuff and all of his stuff into another 2-bedroom home, which is essentially what our house is. It's a 2-bedroom home with a sleep-out study. So he has a very similar, it's not the same, his is a fully detached house, whereas ours is like a maisonette. So I really struggle to figure out how we are going to combine 2 adult homes into one. And I think a lot of that is going to come down to myself and how I can reduce my things and hopefully inspire my husband to do the same. And so I have discovered 2 YouTube channels. That is where I'm going with this. And they have been so inspirational. One of them I found last week, I believe it was. And Sadia is the host, and her channel is Pick Up Limes. So not Pick Up Lines, it's Pick Up Limes, like lime the fruit with an M. And she does a mixture of minimalism and nutrition. She also has some travel videos because she has been a minimalist for a really long time, and she basically lived out of a backpack while she was traveling, and that was the entirety of her possessions was in this backpack. So she's lovely host. She is very lovely to listen to, and she has a very gentle, lovely way of talking. Granger has just started barking in his sleep, so I don't know if he'll be able to hear that, but if you hear something weird, that'll be him. Yeah, so she's a vegan as well, which I am not, but I am interested in getting more whole foods into my diet, which she is very much a proponent of because she is a nutritionist and a registered dietitian. So you get your nutrition info on there, you get your minimalism info on there. The travel videos, I haven't watched any of those because I've never really been somebody who's been bitten by the travel bug, probably due to my anxiety and agoraphobia. I'd much rather stay at home. But yeah, I've really enjoyed her podcast, and she has a blog that goes along with her podcast on, well, it's not really a podcast, it's like an informative channel, really. It's not like she's just having a chat. She's actually teaching you things. So and as part of a lot of her videos, she actually has checklists and downloads that you can access through her blog that help you to get more information. And one of the checklists that I downloaded was 30 days to minimalism. So I'm hoping to give that a go. And basically every day she's given you a new category to declutter, essentially. And yeah, I'm hoping that by setting an example, I can possibly get Simon to relinquish some of his things. Unfortunately, I don't know what it is a symptom of, but he does like to hold on to things. And clothes are a very big part of that for some. He's not a fashionista at all. Like, he's a jeans and t-shirt or shorts and t-shirt kind of guy, but he keeps his clothes far longer than he really should. But Simon tends to keep all of these shirts that he's like, because, you know, obviously he's a man, he's got a beard, he rubs the neckline and sort of puts holes in the neckline of his t-shirts, holes that just develop through wear. He still owns a t-shirt that he used to wear that was kind of old when we got together, and we've been together for over 8 years now. And it is just getting thinner and thinner, and I think it's starting to develop holes, but he just doesn't get rid of these things. And I don't know why. I can't understand what his rationale is with it. And so I've been learning a lot through the Pick Up Limes channel, and then yesterday I discovered another channel, and her name is Janell Kristina, which is the name of her actual channel, and she is a child of hoarder, and I think through that she's just really swung the complete opposite direction. She wants to travel. She is a nurse. She's an emergency room nurse. And she lives in an apartment that is essentially a bedsit, really. Like the lounge room and the bedroom are one big L-shaped room, and the kitchen's up one end, and then there's a bathroom. So she has a very small house, and of course she's living alone, so that probably helps with her being a minimalist. But I listened to watched quite a few of her videos yesterday, and they were just so inspirational. And I've just really had this fire built underneath me to finally make the effort, especially now that we're moving, to pare down all of my belongings. And the fact that the weather is so hot at the moment is really bothering me because I want to make a start, but it's just, I know as soon as I get up and start moving around, I'm just going to be pouring sweat all over the place. And I hate being sweaty, so I'm trying to avoid that. But yeah, it's really, really something that I am super, super jazzed about. Like, it's something I really want to do, and I think I'm going to start very soon. And I know I mentioned last year about wanting to start a second channel, and I think with my decluttering and minimalist attempts and things like that, I'm probably going to start filming that and doing little vlogs like this where I just talk to the camera about things that I have discovered, things that I am achieving, I'm doing. So I do already have the channel. It's art and things aren't done. I haven't got any videos on there as yet, but you can find it just under my name. So it's just going to be Julianne Cole is my station, my channel. So if you are interested in eventually seeing my minimalist efforts, I'm probably going to put my piercing videos on there as well. So if that's something that you are interested in, maybe go and subscribe to that channel too. I'm hoping to get some videos up there pretty soon. I thought just quickly I might do a little bit of blather. There's not a lot to really talk about. I did touch on it slightly earlier about going shopping with my friend Emma, and that was pretty much she has been in America, which I believe I did mention. She was in Colorado in America, and she got back last Thursday, so she immediately messaged me and said, when are we getting together? So I said to her, well, you know, whenever you're ready. I didn't want to really push her because I didn't know whether she'd had any jet lag or any, you know, lingering effects of her travel. She said, well, what about tomorrow? You know, this was Friday. She said, what about tomorrow? So Saturday. I said, sure, what would you like to do? And she says, get pierced. So it's something that we've been talking about ever since I first got my nose pierced, which was January last year. I had that done at a chain store. It was not done well. I since had to take it out and get it re-pierced by a proper piercer, who is my current piercer, who is Carlo of the Happy Stabber in Adelaide. And Emma and I have been talking about it ever since I got my first botched nose piercing, as getting helixes on our ear. I don't know if you can quite see. I might pop in a photo if I don't think you can see that properly. I said, what do you want to do? She said, get pierced. And she said, I want to get it done before I chicken out because, I mean, obviously it's been a year. I got my nose pierced on the 13th of January last year. She said, let's do it. Let's get it done, because she does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and she can't have a healing piercing while doing that because, you know, it's going to get hit, it's going to get knocked. You don't want that on a healing piercing. Hi, Em. She does watch the podcast, and so she said she wouldn't be going back to BJJ for a little while and wanted to get her helix pierced. So yeah, we went in on Saturday and we got them done, and I'm very pleased with mine. She's a little iffy on this location of hers, but I think it's fantastic. I think it's really great, because the thing is too is that I find people who are professional piercers like Carlo, who I go to, they're kind of an artist. They're an artist. They look at your anatomy and they can choose through their experience the best place for things to go. So I think he took her jewellery choice, which was a lovely little opal and diamante like little flower. I'll put in a photo so that you can see, because it's gorgeous. And chose the best spot for it, which was actually more up on the flat of her ear rather than, because usually helixes are kind of on the side of the ear. I shouldn't touch my piercing. I'm inadvertently touching it. Kind of on the side of the ear, where mine is, but maybe just a touch higher, is generally where the helix is, right on the outside curve of the ear. But hers is, as you will see, right up at the top of her ear. So she was a little iffy about the placement, but I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. I love it so much. I'm a little bit jealous. But yeah, and I just got a basic white opal topper on mine, and because unlike Emma, I'm going to continue getting piercings, and I'm thinking that I might do like a crescendo up across the flat of my ear, this being the bottom of the crescendo. So yeah, although mine's not in the position that I expected, it will work when I eventually get the other piercings put in. So yeah, we got pierced on Saturday, which is quite fun. It's healing really well. I don't think it's got any bumps. It doesn't hurt. I can even touch the outside of my ear, like just tap it. I can't feel it, which is fantastic, because when I got my Darth done, which is this one right in there, that hurt so much getting done, and it hurt for, I mean, it still hurts me every now and then now, and that was 3 months ago. So yeah, that one really hurt, and I was worried that my helix piercing, because it's also a cartilage piercing, would hurt as much, and it did hurt going through. He said I had quite tough cartilage in my ear, which is possibly why my Darth hurt so much. And I could hear it going through, and it was all crunchy, and it took quite a bit of force for him to get the needle through my ear. And that did hurt a little because it was so slow, because he was trying to get the needle through my ear. But yeah, once it was done, it was a little achy, a little bit warm, but I just immediately started soaking it twice a day. I've been soaking it for 5 minutes in some saline. And yeah, it feels perfectly fine. So I'm really happy with the experience. And I know a few of my friends on Instagram are looking at getting piercings. So if any of you are, and you are in Adelaide, please do go and check Carlo out. He is a new business. I am trying to do as much as I can to help him, because he does a great job. And I really would like him to have a nice, successful business, partly because for myself, so that he's always there and he can always pierce me when I need it. So yeah, if you are interested in piercings, go check Carlo out if you're in Adelaide. But I think that's probably it. I will just quickly mention that I have had a request for me to do a video on how I do the helical knitting technique. I just have to kind of figure out how to set up the camera so that I can film down over my hands. But I don't know what I can add to the video that I have already linked, but I will do a tutorial for you all so that you can see it actually being done on my no frills sweater, and I'm hoping to have that done fairly soon. So I think I will leave it there. I've said so far too much, and I'm getting very thirsty, and I'm really dying to put the air conditioner back up to full fan, because I've got it on very low, because I did notice that you could kind of hear it in last week's episode. Yes, thank you so much for watching. I hope you will join me again next week. I don't know whether I'm going to have much more knitting content. I might do. Hopefully it'll be cooler. We'll see how we go. If it's cooler, I might be better. But yes, until next week, have a great week, happy crafting, and I will catch you then. Bye.